Hello. Welcome to Love, Light and Bullshit Bingo. We are back for episode number 2. Thank you so much for all of the feedback you gave us with episode number 1. My name is Ceryn Roundtree and
I'm Yolandi.
So thank you for joining us. This podcast it's really a bit of a passion project, I guess, for the two of us.
I think that's the right word. Yeah.
Not only as friends, but also as friends who tend to rant to one another a lot via voice notes about the state of this industry that we find ourselves in, about the things that we see time and time again on social media, about the things that we hear time and time again from our clients they're kind of taking the soul out of the soulful work that is being done. And we think it's time to challenge that, to call out the bullshit bingo, to call out the love and light cliches, and to really get under the bonnet of it and talk about what all of this is really all about.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say, Andy?
Yep. And I think today's topic for me is one that I feel like I've waded through it my entire life, not my entire life, but my life as a business owner for the last 7 years. I've been wading through the bullshit of running your own business. And so today for me is it's quite close to my heart because I've been there, done that, got the fucking t-shirt and all that goes with it. And I'm excited to start chatting to you about this little subject that we're going to delve into today.
Me too. And if I'm honest, I feel like it's one that I'm still wading through. So as we talked last time about talking from our scars rather than our wounds, I'm not sure what I'm doing with this one. So you're going to have to bear with me. But what we're going to talk about today, it's that idea of worth. It's that idea of building our businesses that links us into this six-figure mentality. We were just talking before we came on the call here about how our social media feeds at the moment, and perhaps yours are the same, are full of people telling us that 6 figures is the way to be. I was a loser until I started making 6 figures. And it's just exhausting on so many levels. It's exhausting. So
I've literally been in the space. I was saying to Karen where I was scrolling through my feed on the weekend and I'm like, I need to either unfriend all these people or just never go back onto Facebook again. Because if I see one more post about I'm making so much money and before I was useless, I'm just like, this is wrong. There's something fundamentally wrong in the way that we are basically running our businesses. And I mean, so for me as a spiritual entrepreneur, someone running my own business, you tie your business into your life. You kind of it's such a big part of you. And it's a complete, for me personally, it's an expression of my soul and what I believe in and all of that. So what Karen was saying about your worth being tied to this. So now I come into business and I'm I just want to speak to the world and I really want to help people and all of that. But the industry is telling me that the only way that I can be good enough or be seen or be recognized is if I post 100K a month business. Okay. And this goes against the reason that I stepped into the industry in the first place. The reason I stepped into the industry was because I wanted to help people and I wanted to connect with people and be, someone who was in integrity and working from a space of love. But the industry is kind of going, but to be that, I need to make 100K. And I'm like, I don't get this. So I don't know how you feel about it, but that for me is kind of the crux of the matter.
I feel very similarly. And I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because so I come from very much a working class background, where I come from a part of the world. I come from a line of people where money has never exactly been plentiful, shall we say.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the coaching literature that's out there at the moment, certainly around our industry, is around, it plays into people's fears. Because I know that my part of the world, I know that my lineage, I'm not the only one who comes from that line. Actually, in many ways, here's where I get political. Capitalism itself is built on the idea that for someone to have more, someone else must have less. And as a result of that, actually what we know from the statistics is that there are a lot of people out there who are not in this group. That actually the people who have the more, the people who have the lots, that's a very, very small percentage of the world. The people who have the less, and be that, and I say this as somebody, I'm aware I still have an awful lot of privilege compared to some people out there, but the people who have the less, that's an awful lot of us. And so whenever we play into this narrative of you are a loser if you don't have 6 figures, if you are not bringing in 6 figures, what we're actually playing into is, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It's the absolute baseline of What we are actually playing into is, if you do not do this, you are not safe.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, when we're seeing prices rising around the globe, when we're seeing what I saw somebody post a few weeks ago as the death throes of capitalism, which I was like, oh, I love that phrase. When we're seeing that, people are feeling those fears big style anyway. All we are doing is playing into that fear. And that goes against everything that this work is supposed to be about. It goes against everything that aligning people with their souls, aligning people with their own power is about.
Yeah.
And that frankly makes me feel sick.
Yes. And I think it also speaks to the way that we're doing our advertising in this industry, because it is all about like, what are you lacking? What's not in your life? Like, how are you, and like, honestly, I've done that. Like, I've been there, done that, because that's what my coaches said. Like, you have to go and look, what is the problem? How is this all like playing out? Like, how can you do that? And we keep lacking integrity there. We keep like actually not coming from our heart space when we are marketing to people, because all we're doing is we're going, okay, they're scared of this and they're scared of this and they're scared of this, so I'm just going to talk about that and then they will book with me. But what are you doing? I mean, it's fucking up the whole equation of like energy and how we work with people and how we're supposed to be working from our hearts in the wellness industry. Okay, we're here to fucking help people, not to scare the shit out of them and then bring them in. That's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And I think you just used such a powerful word there when you said lack, and you were talking about lacking in integrity. But actually, this is what we are building an industry on, is lack.
Yes.
We are building an industry on brokenness and lack.
Yes.
Whether it is, you must do this or you will not be enough to do, you must do X or you will not be enough to do Y. Whether it was, if you don't earn enough, you are a loser. Well, whatever it is, we are building an industry on lack, which, let's be honest, there are enough industries out there built on lack. The beauty industry has been built on lack for its entire existence.
Oh, man.
And
okay,
now what we are building. And how do we, we can't, it's funny because one of the things we were saying as we were kind of, I mean, this isn't the conversation we were going to have today, right? And then we started having a conversation and this came up and we were like, oh, this is huge. But one of the things we were talking about before was, I mentioned that I've worked with 2 business coaches in my time. And both of them in my early discussions with me have said, why do you do what you do? What is it that people gain from working with you? What is it you want to do with people and for people? And I've told them, I've said exactly what it is I'm passionate about, why I want to do this, what really makes my heart sing. And both of them have then followed that up with, right, so here's how you're going to make 6 figures doing that. I didn't say I was passionate about 6 figures. I mean, would it be nice to have stacks of money? Well, yeah, maybe it would be, but actually it would also, it's not something that I need. It's not going to mean that I'm not going to sit there with my bank balance of millions in the bank and go, this means I've helped lots and lots of people.
Yes.
I can help lots and lots of people I'm not, this isn't me. I think I'm struggling with the words because I don't want to say I don't want any money.
Yes.
That's not what this is, but it's about decoupling our work, decoupling our mission, and decoupling the worth that we find around who we are. I mean, there's a whole other subject there about decoupling our worth from our jobs.
Yes.
And then decoupling those things from income.
Yes.
We have knotted all of that together so tightly. And they're very separate things. They're very different things.
And it's like, I always look at this and I'm like, we have taken the model, like, so most of us come from corporate, right? Like most of my friends who's in this industry now, we all come from corporate, where we were basically measured by the amount that we were earning or the title that we had in the office. So we've literally taken the model of the corporate patriarchal systems and we've just gone, oh, let's just transplant that into the wellness industry. So we haven't come up with any fucking thing new. We're literally just going, okay, so we're just going to transport all that like wounding, all the fucking crappy bullshit ideas that we wanted to get out of in the first fucking place. That's why we came into this new industry. And we're just going to basically place that on top. So it's like we're smearing this thing full of shit and we just basically now going to hope for the best. So that's how it feels to me.
I totally agree. And don't get me wrong, I think that there are some aspects of the corporate world that I think we can benefit from in this
Yes.
world. You know, I talk about this all the time, as you know, that there is a lot of research being done on, for example, how people can benefit from certain things. Well, then let's use that research. Goodness knows the corporate world has had enough bloody money to invest in it. Let's use their research 100%. There's certain things that we can learn. However, I totally agree with you. We have, and the word you use there, patriarchal, we have taken the patriarchal constructs of that world and we've just smeared the shit of it all over this industry.
Yeah.
When actually, how many times have you spoken to somebody, because I know I have often, who's talked about their experience of corporate as being soul destroying?
Yep.
Now,
Exactly.
don't get me wrong, not every corporate job I ever had was soul destroying. There's some that were lovely in some ways, but it is so often that side of it that was soul destroying.
Mm.
And if we are trying to match soul work with a soul destroying approach, the two don't go together. They jar completely.
Yes. Oh man. Whoa. And yes, exactly that. And I just like I want, and I know for me, I mean, I wanted something more coming into this industry. And I mean, I've had amazing teachers and I've had scary teachers in this time. And when you are like new in this industry, when you're coming in, and I think what's happening now is there's so many new coaches coming in, so many newbies to the industry, right? It's like you almost don't know any better. And I'm definitely like, that was me. I didn't fucking know any better because I came in and then I was like, okay, well, how do you market like doing Akashic record readings? Like, what, people need to buy this stuff. How do I get it out there? So all that was available was like marketing courses for, there wasn't like wellness marketing and all of that stuff that there's now. But what the wellness marketing teachers have done now is they've kind of taken the principles that we used to use in corporate. So when I started, like I used my knowledge of corporate, how we used to do things, how we used to market things, and I built my business using it that way. But it was like, that was not the right way. It didn't feel good because it put so much pressure on my nervous system. Like I was more stressed out walking into this industry than I was actually working a job as a business analyst, like with project management deadlines and timelines and, $1 million projects. It was more stressful for me to run my own business because I was following these principles of like, go, go, go. This is how it needs to be done. This is the rules. You need to make money, blah, blah, blah. And just such harsh rules. And like, it just feels to me where's that space where we actually bring this like beautiful softer energy that we're wanting in the world into our industry?
Yes, 100%. And if I look at some of the teachers that are out there right now, and I'm not going to name names in terms of who I disagree with, but if there is a guy that I really love called Daniel Four, who is an ancestral healing teacher, an ancestral healing author, all that stuff. And with all of his courses, he has like a what do you call it, like a scholarship fund. And of course, I don't know what the background is like in their business, but he has a scholarship fund for people. He has a sliding scale for people. He has all sorts of different things where it's like the work that we are doing, the work that we are here to do, the world needs it. I firmly believe that. I firmly believe the world needs this work. The world needs this reconnection to themselves, to their souls, through the Akasha, through the ancestral stuff, through all of the different things that we do.
Yeah.
The world needs that. Now, when we start making it and I'm struggling with my words, when we start making it an exclusive box that people can only get to that when we make it a scary thing that they're doing because they're like, oh shit, I'm gonna put my life on the line to do it.
Yeah.
One, they're not going into that with the right mentality.
Yeah.
Two, when we are putting that wisdom out there from a place of our own burnout, from a place of our own fear, from a place of our own pressure, from a place of our own, I must do this, we are not communicating that in the right way. We are not in alignment with ourselves. We are not in alignment with this work. And the reason I mentioned Daniel is because I think about the way that that business, the way that he just always seems authentic. The work that they are doing seems authentic because, quite frankly, it seems like they give a shit.
Yeah.
And if I compare that to a coach that I heard about recently who charges something like $7,000 for a 6-month program, which is an investment in your life, an investment in your business. And actually, I spoke with somebody who was doing that course and had made that investment and had got no return on that investment, and actually didn't even seem to be having the space held for them throughout that investment. That to me is not authentic. That to me is not soul work. That to me is not furthering anybody's benefit. It is just perpetuating this cycle of lack.
Yeah, exactly. And putting the person who's paying that money into a state again of like mad nervous system dysregulation. And so like we're never getting out of this, like, you know, we let like all like hyped up and
It's
this
the
mad
hamster
thing
wheel,
just
isn't
gets
it?
worse. Yeah.
It's the hamster wheel, except this time the hamster wheel is pink and sparkly and it says love and light all over it instead of being corporate.
Yeah,
That's all it
exactly.
is.
And so the one thing that we also said was like this whole thing about like, so if you're a coach stepping into the industry, or you're a healer or therapist or whatever, like the messaging that's going out there is you need to make 6 figures, right? And then we were speaking earlier before we started the call about, so why do you need to make 6 figures? And I was saying to Karen, like for me, for a long time, that was a lot of the coaches that I invested in. That was the narrative, right? And then it was like, oh, you just charge this because you want to make that much money. And I'm going, but like, I don't even know, my products don't fit that. How am I going to invent something that is worth charging £10,000 for? It's like crazy. I wouldn't fucking pay £10,000 to coach with anyone because I don't have £10,000 that I want to spend on coaching, right? So the thing is, it's like it's like that whole thing then basically comes to the, we need to do this, but why do we need to do this? And I feel like I didn't ask myself the question in the beginning of why did I want that? And it wasn't until recently when I started changing coaches, when I started working with people who weren't into that whole scenario, where they started going, but why do you want to do that? Why are you really here? What are you really wanting to do? You're not here to make 6 figures. You're here to help people. And that's the thing. And that's where we need to start changing our behavior as the therapists and the coaches and all those people. Like, that's where we need to start questioning ourselves, because why are we fucking buying into people telling us that we need to make this fucking money? Like,
Absolutely.
we are not thinking for ourselves in this regard.
And we we have all these people who are out there talking about how they're smashing the system, that they're changing the way, they're changing the system. And don't get me wrong, there are a couple of authors, as you know, and a couple of speakers who write about money and speak about money who I really love and I really respect.
Yeah.
However, as long as we are out there saying we need to smash the system, and to do that, the only way to do that, because you know me, I'm a bit of an activist at heart, the only way to do that is to make this money ourselves, we're still perpetuating the challenge. Now, I get it. I understand. I acknowledge, that if you and I were sitting here and we were like, we got millions in the bank, I get it. We could do things differently. We could help more people. We could change the world. The soul-led approach to life that we are both so in favor of, we could help more people to do that. We could, perhaps you get a million sort of soul-led multimillionaires or whatever. You suddenly start to have those discussions at a higher level where it's able to influence public policy, where it's able to influence strategy, all of that stuff. I get it. However, we're not there.
Yeah.
And what we're finding is that actually often the system is stacked against us, even if we did have that money. Mm-hmm. Our faces wouldn't fit, because actually what they're looking for is this type of person, or this, whatever the reason. And so I agree with you. We are being sold at, actually, this is what you're here to do. What we're being sold is still that line about you're living to work. And actually, you're not even living to work. You're living to make money. Yeah. Again, I'm going to use the hamster wheel analogy. It's keeping you in that trap of, and I get it. We need to make money to put food on the table. We need to make money, but I get it. I know this, this isn't, I'm certainly not sitting here saying I don't need to make money. Not at all. But we need to try and decouple those two things from that being the whole purpose, because it isn't the purpose.
Yeah. And you are not the amount of money in your bank account. No. You are not measured by that.
And I almost think that's, as a coach and as a therapist, that's the thing that always worries me when people ask that question of, right, what's the purpose? What are you here to do? And how are you going to make six figures? And how are you going to design a program that will make you six figures? Because what is that? How is that going to change it? The next question should always be, and if you made six figures, how would that change your life? What would that even mean for you?
Yeah.
Because if, I don't know, hypothetically, if you are somebody with a massive shopping addiction and you get six figures in the bank, and then you suddenly start going out and splashing all your cash on all sorts of things, will that really benefit you, or will it just make you more stressed? Quite probably the latter.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that from a judgmental place. I'm saying it from a purpose of, what does that mean to you? What is invested in this for your worth?
Yeah.
And actually, if what I was to tell you was, if I was to say to you tomorrow, Yolandi, right, you are going to be fine. You and your family you'll be fine. You'll have a roof over your head. You'll have food on the table. You'll have your needs met. You'll even have some of your desires met.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll have all your desires met. Who knows? Surely that's enough. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily come with a figure. For some people, that might take a lot. Am I making sense here, or am I just off on a tangent?
Yes. No, totally. For others, it makes so much sense to me. Yes, exactly.
It doesn't need. Again, it almost comes back to that idea of us being sold lack.
Yeah.
Because what we have been sold for years, and I say this as somebody who worked in PR for 10, 15 years, we have been sold this idea that the only way to happiness is to buy it. The only way to fulfillment is to buy it. The only way to worth is to buy it.
Yes.
And until we decouple ourselves from that mentality, all of this is bullshit.
And it starts with each of us. So for me, the biggest journey in the last few years was to go, what am I measuring my worth with? Okay. And I used money for years. That was because that's all I knew. I didn't know any better. I didn't, and even my little stories about wanting to prove to people that people in our industry can make as much money as people in the financial industry where I used to be. Yeah, fine. But that was, again, me not feeling good enough about myself. I needed to prove to other people that I could make it in this industry and make as much money as I used to make. Yeah. That shows you how I didn't actually, I again just coupled all of my worth to the money. It was all about what was in my bank account, because that meant Yolandi was successful. But I needed to deconstruct that for myself. And part of this is you taking a journey and deconstructing your bullshit stories. And I mean, it was a tough one, because it was I put pressure on myself, killing myself, needing to make this money just so I could show everyone else that it was possible. And that's bullshit. And now when I'm in that space where I'm going, actually, I'm making enough, everything's good. Like you said, my needs are met, my desires are met, even all of that stuff. It changes the whole fucking dynamic of doing this work.
It does. And when I heard you kind of reflect my words back to me there, it made me think, I sort of dithered over that word desires before and was like, oh, but our desires deserve to be met. And I was like, why was I dithering? And when I heard you reflect it back there, I just thought, because actually, how many of our desires are really ours?
Yes, yes.
I have friends who will tell you that their desire is to have, and I don't know what the latest one is, so I'm probably about 3 years behind the trends. Their desire is to have a whole wardrobe full of Michael Kors handbags. Cool. If that is really your desire, if that's something you really want, awesome. Go do it. Go and bloody fill your wardrobe up with the handbags if you really want them. If it makes you feel good, do it.
Yes.
But if you are trying to buy those handbags because having it on your arm makes you go, this means I'm worthwhile.
Yeah.
No, that's not a desire. That's something that there's a noise outside. If Callie starts barking in a minute, we know why. That is something that, again, this culture of lack, this world that is trying to sell us our not enoughness, has sold you as a desire. Yeah. Uncoupling this idea of worth from money also requires us to sit there and get really uncomfortably intimate with our desires and say, actually, what do I want and why? I think for me, that's been the biggest journey of the last few years, has been asking the why question with everything I want. Why do I want that? Is it because I really want it? And that's not to shame myself if I do. Not at all. Because if I do, then go and fucking get it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's to ask myself, do I really want it, or have I been told that I should want it? And so I think that that's the way it must look.
Yeah. Because that's it. Because we've been told that is success. We've been told that is how it should be. We've been told. But again, it's just like, what are we doing? Being a soul aligned person means that you are very fucking clear on what you want and what you need, and not what everyone else wants. That's it.
This is it. This is exactly it. And actually, the question is six figures what you want?
Yeah.
And if it is, cool. Why? The question I always say with clients is, when you're unsure, when you're unpicking stuff, ask yourself why.
My favorite word.
Mine too. And I always think it's funny that that's a technique in therapy. A technique is called Socratic question, and where you ask the question why, and you just keep asking until you get to the root cause. Well, the reason I find that funny is that is the same technique I was taught when I went through management training at McDonald's when I was 19.
Yeah.
We've got no fries. Why? You can get to the root cause. The root cause probably is you haven't got enough staff. And I always find it really funny, to feed this back, that actually in this soul work,
yeah,
I use the same techniques I used in McDonald's at the age of 19. It's the most corporate you can get, isn't it? But isn't with that. That's one of those things where I'm like, bring in some of the corporate stuff. It's useful.
Yeah, totally. You know me, I'm a fucking huge fan of like my like, control freak tendencies from analyzing the shit out of stuff. I love it. And I bring it into my work all the time. And I think that's an important thing. Those things are not bad. And we're not saying those things are bad. And we're not saying the corporate industry is all bad. But the thing is, like, what are we taking out of there that's damaging and just smearing all over our new, like, this wellness industry that we're like, for me, it's like I'm quite passionate about being part of this industry that is here to help and support people. But I'm also starting to feel like, fuck this, I want to climb off the hamster wheel of this industry, because I don't want to be part of a culture that perpetuates exactly what you said, this fucking lack mentality, everything that's with that. I don't want that anymore. And I don't want to have to, like, just say, fuck this, turn my back on the industry. But at times it does feel like I kind of want to.
I often think, actually, if I could step out of this industry, and it's funny that my throat keeps going, this is obviously a big one. If I could step out of this industry and still do the work that I do somehow, that would be my dream. Yeah. Because actually I often look at this industry, and I'm not by any stretch talking about everybody who's in it. I'm not saying that there's you and me and then the rest of the world are all charlatans. That's not what I'm saying. But I look at some of the things that are happening by and large in this industry, and it makes me feel so very uncomfortable. And I think, this is where this podcast came from.
Yeah.
This industry should be here if we are truly living in a soulful way, if we are truly working in a soulful way, if we are truly supporting the world to come into soulful alignment.
Yeah.
What that requires is us to step back and ask that why question about everything, and most of all, ask it about ourselves.
Yeah. And I'm coming now, like, to the mushy part here, but it's our responsibility. Like, if you're listening to this podcast and you are a therapist, a healer, a coach, or whatever, and you are stuck in that limbo of six-figure, oh my God, I'm not good enough, how do I change the fucking narrative, change the story, go in, ask the question, because it's only by us saying we're not going to play the game that the game's going to stop. Yeah. And that's where I'm like feeling, I think, and like you say, that's why we're doing this fucking podcast, is because we need to ask the questions, and you need to ask the question for yourself.
Yeah. And you know what's a really interesting thing I think about this? I actually said this to a client the other day. I know very, very few people in this industry who do not do other work alongside. No, let me rephrase that. I know very, very few people in this industry who I wholeheartedly trust, and I gel with, and maybe that's just me and my energy, but I gel with, who are not doing something else alongside this work. Now, I'm not saying that's the way it has to be, but what I am saying is that by doing that, that enables that person to have their own needs met without making their work something that is based on lack. It's almost like that Elizabeth Gilbert quote from Big Magic about how she says somewhere in there that for a long time, although she was a writer, she did not rely on her writing to pay the bills because that was an awful lot of pressure on her writing. And at that point, her creativity would go, oh, no, thank you. I don't want to do it.
Yes.
There is no shame. I say this because I want to say this to anybody who is listening, who is in that place of going, oh, but at 50-50, there is no shame in having another job alongside being a coach, a therapist, a healer. Yeah. No shame at all.
And I've been doing this work for 7 years, and I still have like a part-time job. So I'm doing this work the majority of my time, but 1 day a week I'm doing corporate work. So and that's fine. And that is how I managed to be in business, and it's fine. And it's also about like keeping your boundaries and knowing that that day is for that and the other days are for my soul work. And that's how I live my life. And I feel very comfortable with it because it puts me in a space where I'm feeling safe and secure in my financial needs.
Yeah. And I did for a long time. I've been doing this work for 11 years now. And it's only for the last 18 months that I have not had another job alongside this. And actually, as you know, an hour before we started this conversation, I was looking at jobs going, I can totally do that one. That would be interesting, because for me, actually, it's not just about the money side of it. It's also about, it grounds me. There's something about being in the outside world, outside of this industry, that stops me from getting too carried away and too like just stuck in it. It's stuck on my own hamster wheel, I guess.
Yes.
There is a, you know, we almost, through whatever way we do it, whether that be mums at the school gate or an office job or something else entirely, it's useful to have that ground and presence in our lives in some way.
Yep, totally. That's what my husband always says. He's like, if you didn't have that, you'd be off with the fucking fairies. And it's just like, yes. So if I didn't have the reality of doing accounts and all that type of stuff, oh my God, where would I be?
Yeah. And I sometimes think, for me, living alone, you know, being single, living on my own, it's amazing that I'm not off with the fairies more often, to be honest. I think I need that ground.
You've got Callie at least.
I've got Callie. It's all good.
Oh,
but this
awesome.
is, you know, and doesn't this bring us, I guess this is the crux of this.
Yeah.
That where we come back to is six figures, whatever it is. If that's what you want, go for it. But you have to ask yourself why. Your worth is whatever whatever you choose your worth to be.
Yeah.
You get to define what that is. But actually the truth, if we're coming at it from a soul place, if we're coming at it from a really aligned with ourselves place, you're worth more than you realize, regardless. That more doesn't matter who you have in your life, what your bank balance is, what clothes you're wearing, any of it. Your worth is defined simply by you being you.
That's beautiful. Awesome. This was such a good conversation. Thanks, babe.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So yeah, I guess we'll see what we come up with next month.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. We'll be back next month. And yeah, we'd love to know your thoughts on this. This is really just us chewing the fat, so we'd love to know your thoughts on this. If you are listening to this and you want to hear more from us, Project Earthwork, which Yolandi and I are both a part of, is having a solstice celebration the 21st of June, 7 p.m. UK time. There will be channeling, there will be meditation, there will be vibrational sound. It will just be magical. So if you would like to join us to celebrate solstice, we would love to see you there. It's completely free to attend, because, you know, your worth isn't linked to money.
That's what we do, shit for free.
And we would love to see you there. But thank you so much for listening and for watching. And thank you, Yolandi.
Oh, thanks, babe. It was awesome speaking to you. And thanks. Yeah, we'll see you guys next month again in here, or you can hear us next month, however you're consuming the podcast. So thanks so much for your time and just for your support as well.
Thank you. Cool.